Welcome back to the Longevity 101. Let me ask you something that might sting a little. You eat clean, you buy organic, maybe you even meal prep on Sundays like a good little health warrior. And yet, you're tired, your joints ache, your brain fog rolls in around 2 p.m. like clockwork. Your skin looks 10 years older than your Instagram filter suggests. What if I told you that your clean diet, the one you've been so proud of, is failing your biology? Not because you're doing it wrong, but because the game itself has changed. Here's a number that should wake you up. Over 90% of Americans are deficient in at least one essential nutrient. 90%. That's not just the fast food crowd. That's you. That's me. That's the guy at Whole Foods spending $40 on a smoothie. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly why this is happening, what it's doing to your body at the cellular level, and most importantly, the science-backed supplement blueprint that can actually slow down, and in some cases, reverse your biological aging. This isn't hype. This isn't me trying to sell you a magic pill. This is biochemistry. This is evolutionary science. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand your own body in a way that most doctors, frankly, never explain to their patients. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. All right, let's start with the big picture, because if you don't understand the why behind all of this, the supplement recommendations I give you later won't make any sense. Here's the fundamental problem. Your body is running ancient software in a modern world. Think about that for a second. For over 200,000 years, 200,000, our ancestors evolved in a very specific environment. They ate wild game, wild fish, wild plants, nutrient-dense food that grew in rich, untouched soil. They drank water straight from mountain streams. They moved constantly, not because they had a gym membership, but because survival demanded it. They slept when the sun went down and woke when it came up. 9 hours. Easy. And the air they breathed? 0 synthetic chemicals, 0 microplastics, 0 glyphosate. Now fast forward to today, you and I are walking around with the exact same biology, the exact same DNA, the exact same cellular machinery. But we've dropped that biology into a completely alien environment. Our soil has been depleted by industrial farming. Our water is treated with chemicals. We sit in chairs for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. We stare at blue light screens until midnight. And here's the kicker. Since the early 1900s, we've introduced over 80,000 synthetic chemicals into our environment. 80,000. Our great-grandparents' bodies never had to deal with any of that. This is what scientists call the evolutionary mismatch. And it's not a theory. It's a measurable, documented phenomenon. Dr. Mark Hyman puts it really well. He says, look, from a strictly evolutionary perspective, supplements might seem unnecessary. And he's right, they would be unnecessary. If you met 6 very specific conditions, let me read these to you because I think they're incredibly eye-opening. Number 1, you hunt and gather your own wild food. Number 2, you drink only pure, clean water. Number 3, you experience 0 chronic stress. Number 4, you exercise constantly as a baseline lifestyle. Number 5, you sleep 9 hours a night, perfectly synced with the sun. And number 6, you face 0 exposure to environmental toxins. Now, raise your hand if you meet all 6 of those conditions. Yeah, I didn't think so. I certainly don't. Nobody does. It's virtually impossible in the 21st century. And that's the point. That's why this conversation matters. Supplements are no longer nice-to-haves. They're not luxury items for wellness influencers. They are foundational requirements, biological necessities, to bridge the gap between what your ancient body expects and what the modern world actually delivers. Think of it like this. Your body is a high-performance engine designed to run on premium fuel, but the world is only giving you regular, unleaded. And it's watered down at that. Supplements are how you close that gap. They're how you give your cells what they're desperately asking for. So let's talk about what exactly your cells are missing. All right, here's where the data gets really uncomfortable. The N. Haynes survey, That's the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, conducted by the CDC. It's one of the largest, most comprehensive nutritional studies in the United States. And what it shows is staggering. Over 90% of Americans are deficient in at least one essential nutrient. Let me break that down for you with some specific numbers. 90% are deficient in omega-3 fatty acids. 90%. That's almost everyone. 50% are deficient in magnesium, a mineral involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body. 40% are deficient in zinc, which is critical for your immune system, your hormones, your wound healing, your cognitive function. And again, this isn't just affecting people who live on pizza and soda. This is affecting people who genuinely try to eat well, health conscious, educated people who shop at farmers markets and read nutrition labels. Why? Because the food itself has changed. Modern crops have been selectively bred over decades, not for nutrient density, but for yield and starch content. We've optimized agriculture to produce more food, faster and cheaper. And in doing so, we've stripped out the very micronutrients our bodies depend on. A tomato today contains significantly less vitamin C, less iron, less calcium than a tomato from 1950. The food looks the same. It tastes kind of the same, but nutritionally, it's a shadow of what it used to be. And here's where this gets really dangerous, because we're not talking about dramatic, obvious deficiencies like scurvy, where your teeth fall out and you know something is very, very wrong. We're talking about something far more insidious. The late scientist Robert Heaney coined a term for this: long latency deficiency diseases. These are conditions caused by subtle, chronic nutrient insufficiencies that silently degrade your health over years, over decades. You don't feel them happening. There's no alarm bell. You just slowly, gradually lose function. Your energy drops a little. Your recovery takes a little longer. Your memory gets a little fuzzier. Your inflammation creeps up. And 10, 20, 30 years later, you're sitting in a doctor's office hearing words like pre-diabetes or cardiovascular disease or early onset cognitive decline. And you think, but I ate well. How did this happen? It happened because of the gap, the 90% gap. Now here's the piece that really fascinates me as a science nerd. Let me tell you about Dr. Bruce Ames. He's a legendary biochemist who discovered something remarkable. Roughly 1/3 of your entire DNA, 1/3, codes for enzymes. Enzymes are the biological catalysts that run virtually every chemical reaction in your body. They build things, they break things down, they repair damage, they generate energy. But here's the catch. Those enzymes don't work on their own. They need cofactors. They need vitamins and minerals as keys to unlock them. Without those keys, the enzymes just sit there, dormant, useless. Your cellular machinery literally gums up. It's like having a factory full of workers, but nobody has the tools to do their job. And because nutrients are what we call pleomorphic, meaning each one regulates hundreds of different systems simultaneously, a single deficiency can cascade into problems across your entire body. Magnesium deficiency doesn't just affect one thing. It affects your sleep, your muscle function, your blood pressure, your mood, your blood sugar regulation, your bone density. One missing nutrient. Hundreds of downstream consequences. Now, before you run out and buy every supplement on the shelf, I need to give you a critical warning. Because there's a right way and a very wrong way to approach this. Dr. Hyman uses what I think is a brilliant analogy. He calls it the Michael Jordan problem. Michael Jordan is arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. But could Michael Jordan win an NBA championship by himself? Of course not. He needed Scottie Pippen. He needed Dennis Rodman. He needed the full team. Nutrients work the exact same way. They function in synergy, in teams, in networks. Let me give you a perfect example. Your antioxidant defense system works like a relay team. Vitamin C encounters a dangerous free radical, a rogue electron that damages your cells. Vitamin C neutralizes it. But in doing so, vitamin C itself becomes unstable. So it passes that dangerous electron to vitamin E. Vitamin E stabilizes it and passes it along to glutathione, your body's master antioxidant, which finally renders it harmless. But what happens if you take a massive dose of vitamin C without adequate vitamin E and glutathione in the system? That vitamin C has nowhere to pass the electron. It becomes a pro-oxidant, a free radical itself, the very thing you were trying to protect against. This is why the megadose single nutrient approach that you see all over social media is not just ineffective, it can actually be harmful. True longevity requires the full roster, the full team, every nutrient working together in its proper ratio. So how do you build that team? Let's talk about the foundation. All right, if everything I've said so far is the why, this is the what. This is the practical blueprint, and I want to be very clear about something. Before you get fancy with any advanced longevity protocols, you need to nail the basics. You need what I call the foundational 3. These are the 3 supplements that nearly every adult, regardless of their diet or lifestyle, should be taking. Period. Let's go through them one by one. Number 1, a high-quality multivitamin. Now, I know what you're thinking. A multivitamin. Really? That's your big advice? And I get it. Multivitamins have gotten a bad reputation because most of them on the market are, frankly, garbage. They're made with cheap synthetic forms of nutrients that your body can barely absorb. But a high-quality multivitamin, and I'm going to stress the word quality here, is one of the most impactful things you can take, because it provides the essential cofactors that those 33% of your DNA-coded enzymes need to function. Here's a perfect example. Folate. You've heard of folic acid, right? It's in fortified breads, cereals, prenatal vitamins. But here's the problem. Folic acid is a synthetic form of folate, and a significant portion of the population, some estimates say up to 40%, carry a genetic variation called MTHFR that makes it very difficult for their bodies to convert folic acid into its active form, methylfolate. Methylfolate is what your body actually uses. It's a critical cofactor for enzymes involved in DNA repair, methylation, neurotransmitter production, and detoxification. If you're taking cheap folic acid and your body can't convert it, those enzymes aren't getting activated. Your DNA repair machinery is running on empty. A good multivitamin uses methylfolate, not folic acid. It uses methylcobalamin, not cyanocobalamin. It uses chelated minerals, not cheap oxides. The form matters enormously. Don't cheap out on this. Read the label. If you see folic acid listed instead of methylfolate or 5-MTHF, put it back on the shelf. Number 2, fish oil. Specifically high-quality omega-3 fatty acids. Remember that 90% deficiency number. This is what that refers to. Almost no one is getting enough omega-3s, and this matters more than most people realise. Omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA specifically, are structural components of every single cell membrane in your body. Every cell. They're particularly concentrated in your brain, your retina, and your heart. When your cell membranes are rich in omega-3s, they're fluid, flexible, and efficient at communicating with neighbouring cells. When they're depleted, your membranes become stiff and sluggish, and cellular communication breaks down. There's a measurement called the omega-3 index, which tells you what percentage of your red blood cell membranes are made up of omega-3 fats. The research on this is remarkable. A high omega-3 index, above 8%, is correlated with an additional 3 to 5 years of life expectancy. 3 to 5 years. Just from having adequate omega-3 levels. That's comparable to the life expectancy benefit of not smoking. But here's the detail that most people miss. Not all fish oils are created equal. The one thing you want to look for, and this is cutting edge, is something called SPMs, or specialized pro-resolving mediators. These are metabolites of omega-3s that act as the brakes on your immune system's inflammatory response. See, inflammation isn't inherently bad. When you cut your finger, inflammation rushes in to fight infection and start healing. That's acute inflammation, and it's a good thing. The problem is when inflammation doesn't turn off, when the brakes don't work. That's chronic inflammation, the low-grade systemic kind that drives heart disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes, and accelerated aging. SPMs are those brakes. They tell your immune system, okay, the threat is handled, stand down, start repairing. If your fish oil contains pro-resolving mediators, You're not just reducing inflammation, you're actively resolving it. Big difference. Number 3, vitamin D3 paired with vitamin K2. This is the combo that blows my mind every time I look at the research. And yet most people either aren't taking it or are taking D3 without K2, which is a significant missed opportunity. Vitamin D3 is not really a vitamin, it's a hormone precursor. Your body is designed to produce it from sunlight hitting your skin. But most of us spend 90% of our time indoors, and when we do go outside, we're covered in sunscreen. The result? Widespread D3 deficiency across the globe. D3 is involved in immune regulation, bone metabolism, mood, muscle function, and here's the big one, gene expression. It literally turns genes on and off. Low D3 levels are associated with increased risk of virtually every major chronic disease. But here's why K2 matters. When you take D3, it increases your absorption of calcium. That's a good thing for your bones. But without K2, that calcium can end up deposited in your arteries and soft tissues instead of your bones. K2 acts as a traffic cop. It directs calcium to where it belongs, your bones and teeth, and away from where it doesn't belong, your blood vessels. D3 without K2 is like hiring a delivery driver who doesn't know the address. The package is going to end up in the wrong place. Dr. Hyman recommends aiming for blood levels of D3 above 50 nanograms per deciliter. And the data supporting this threshold is compelling. In some clinical contexts, studies have shown essentially zero mortality when patients maintain D3 levels above this benchmark. Now that's a specific clinical population, so take it with a grain of nuance, but the signal is loud and clear. Higher D3 levels are profoundly protective. So that's your foundation. Multivitamin. Fish oil. D3 plus K2. These aren't sexy, they're not trendy, but they are the bedrock upon which everything else is built. Now let's get into the advanced stuff, and this is where it gets really exciting. Okay, if the foundational 3 are about filling the nutrient gap, what I'm about to tell you is about hacking the aging process itself. We're moving from basic nutrition into what's called nutrient sensing pathways. And the star of this show is a molecule called NAD+. NAD+ stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. I know, it's a mouthful. But stick with me, because understanding this molecule might be the single most important thing you learn about aging. Your body is constantly balancing two modes. Think of them as two gears. Gear 1 is growth mode. This is driven by a pathway called mTOR. When mTOR is active, your body is building. Muscle, tissue, cells. This is great when you're young and growing. But when mTOR is chronically activated in adulthood, usually by excessive protein intake, constant eating, and high insulin, it accelerates aging. It's like running your car engine at redline all day. Every day, you're going to burn it out. Gear 2 is repair mode. This is driven by a family of proteins called sirtuins. When sirtuins are active, your body shifts from building to repairing. It fixes damaged DNA, it cleans out dysfunctional proteins, it reduces inflammation. It's essentially a cellular maintenance crew. Now here's the critical connection. Sirtuins run on NAD+. NAD+ is their fuel. Without adequate NAD+, your sirtuins can't do their job. And here's the devastating part. NAD+ levels naturally decline as we age. By the time you're 50, you may have half the NAD+ you had at 20. By 60, it's even lower. Your repair crew is running out of gas. And the workload doesn't decrease. Quite the opposite. Your DNA takes approximately 100,000 hits every single day. Every day. From normal metabolic processes, from UV radiation, from toxins, from oxidative stress. Your body has an incredible DNA repair team to handle this, but that team needs NAD+ to function. When NAD+ drops, the damage accumulates. Mutations stack up. Cellular function degrades. Inflammation rises. And you age. Visibly, measurably, functionally. So the question becomes, can we restore NAD+ levels? The answer is yes. And the results are, well, let me tell you about the treadmill study. This is one of my favourite pieces of research in all of longevity science. Researchers took old mice, geriatric mice, the equivalent of, say, a 70-year-old human, and gave them NMN. NMN, or nicotinamide mononucleotide, is a direct precursor to NAD+. Your body converts NMN into NAD+ very efficiently. These old mice were placed on a treadmill. Now, in normal conditions, even the youngest, healthiest, most athletic mice max out at about 2 kilometers on this particular treadmill setup. That's considered peak performance. The old mice on NMN, they ran 3 kilometers. 3. They didn't just match the young mice, they exceeded them. And here's the part that makes me smile every time. The treadmill actually broke. The machine overheated and shut down before the mice got tired. The mice literally outperformed the equipment. Now, I want to be responsible here. Mouse studies don't always translate directly to humans, but the mechanism, the role of NAD+ in powering sirtuins and DNA repair, is well established in human biochemistry. And human clinical trials are increasingly supporting the benefits of NAD+ precursors like NMN and NR, which stands for nicotinamide riboside. What we're seeing in the data is that restoring NAD+ levels can help silence master inflammation switches like NF-kappa B, support mitochondrial function, your cellular energy production, and activate those critical sirtuin repair pathways. This is not science fiction. This is happening right now in labs and clinics around the world, and it represents a fundamental shift in how we think about aging. We're not just trying to slow the decline anymore. We're trying to switch on the repair systems that our bodies already possess but have lost the fuel to run. Now, I want to share something with you that might sound counterintuitive at first, but once you understand it, it changes everything about how you think about nutrition and longevity. It's called xenohormesis. Let me break that word down. Xeno means foreign or from the outside. Hormesis refers to a biological phenomenon where a small dose of stress actually makes an organism stronger. Xenohormesis, then, is the idea that we can benefit from the stress responses of other organisms, specifically plants. Here's how it works. When a plant grows in a harsh environment, high altitude, intense UV radiation, poor soil, extreme temperatures, pest pressure, it doesn't just survive passively, it actively produces complex phytonutrients, polyphenols, and defense compounds to protect itself. These molecules are the plant's survival toolkit. Take Himalayan Tartary buckwheat as an example. This plant grows at extreme altitudes where UV radiation is punishing and conditions are brutal. As a result, it produces extraordinarily high concentrations of protective compounds, far more than the same species would produce in a comfortable greenhouse. Now here's where it gets fascinating. When you eat these stressed plants, when you consume those phytonutrients, they act as what Dr. Hyman describes as little doses of poison in your body. Not enough to harm you, but enough to trigger your body's own survival and repair mechanisms. Your cells detect these compounds and essentially say, something's off. Better activate our defense systems. And they do. They upregulate antioxidant production. They enhance DNA repair. They boost mitochondrial efficiency. They activate ancient longevity pathways. This is the same principle behind other hormetic stressors that you might already be familiar with. Cold plunges. That shock of ice water triggers a massive adaptive response. Sauna exposure. The heat activates heat shock proteins that repair damaged proteins in your cells. High-intensity exercise. You're deliberately stressing your muscles and cardiovascular system so they come back stronger. Xenohormesis is the nutritional version of this, and the specific compounds involved are remarkable. Resveratrol, found in grape skins, red wine, and certain berries, is a sirtuin activator. It mimics some of the effects of caloric restriction, which is one of the most well-documented interventions for extending lifespan across multiple species. Quercetin, found in onions, apples, and berries, has emerged as a potent senolytic agent. What does that mean? It helps clear out senescent cells. Senescent cells are sometimes called zombie cells. They're old, damaged cells that have stopped dividing but refuse to die. Instead, they sit in your tissues, pumping out inflammatory signals that damage neighbouring healthy cells. They're like a bad employee who won't quit but makes everyone else miserable. Senolytics like quercetin help identify and eliminate these zombie cells, reducing the inflammatory burden on your body and essentially acting as a biological reset button. The research on senolytics is still emerging, but the early results, both in animal models and preliminary human trials, are genuinely exciting. So when you combine NAD+ restoration with xenohormetic compounds and a solid nutritional foundation, you're attacking biological aging from multiple angles simultaneously. You're fueling the repair crew, you're activating the defense systems, you're clearing out the cellular debris, and you're giving every enzyme in your body the cofactors it needs to do its job. That's not anti-aging hype, that's systems biology. Now, I want to close with something practical, because the best supplement stack in the world is only half the equation. The other half is measurement. You need to know where you stand, and you need to know if what you're doing is actually working. And here's the problem. Standard medical testing is, in many cases, too little, too late. Let me give you a perfect example. Dr. Hyman identifies a 4-step progression of metabolic decline, the slow march toward insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes that most doctors completely miss. Step 1. Your 2-hour insulin level goes up after eating. This is the earliest sign. Your body is producing more insulin than it should to manage blood sugar. But you're fasting glucose? Totally normal. Your doctor says you're fine. Step 2. Your fasting insulin starts to creep up. Your body is now working harder, even in a resting state, to keep blood sugar in check. But your blood sugar numbers? Still normal. Your doctor says you're fine. Step 3. Your 2-hour blood sugar after a meal starts to elevate. Now there's a measurable problem, but it only shows up after eating, and most standard blood tests don't check this. Step 4. Your fasting blood sugar finally goes up. This is when your doctor finally says, hey, your blood sugar is a little high. Let's keep an eye on it. But by this point, you've been metabolically declining for potentially years, maybe a decade. The horse left the barn a long time ago. This is why I urge you, beg you, to be proactive about testing. Don't just test fasting glucose. Test fasting insulin. Test your omega-3 index. Test your vitamin D levels. Test your homocysteine. Test your HSCRP for inflammation. Get a complete picture. Because aging isn't something that just happens to you. It's a process, a measurable, trackable, and so of course increasingly, a modifiable process.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the journey.
So let me bring this all together. We are living in a world that our biology was never designed for. The evolutionary mismatch between our ancient DNA and our modern environment has created a 90% nutrient gap that no amount of clean eating alone can fix. The solution isn't one magic pill, it's a systems-based approach. Start with the foundational 3, a high-quality multivitamin, omega-3 fish oil with pro-resolving mediators, and vitamin D3 paired with K2. Then go deeper. Restore your NAD+ levels with precursors like NMN or NR to fuel your body's DNA repair machinery. Harness xenohormesis, the ancient power of stress plants, through compounds like resveratrol and quercetin to activate your longevity pathways and clear out zombie cells. And above all, stop guessing. Test your biomarkers. Know your numbers. Track your progress. The paradigm is shifting. Aging is not an inevitable decline into disease and dysfunction. It is a treatable condition. Your body possesses an incredible, innate desire to heal and to thrive. It has the machinery. It has the blueprints. It's just waiting for you to provide the right raw materials. So I'll leave you with this question. The same question I ask myself every single day. What would your biological age be if you activated your body's innate healing systems today? Thanks for watching. If this changed the way you think about aging and supplements, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.